Welcome, Gary Griffith on the Zoom line. Great to see you as always. Thank you for the time as always.
Always my pleasure. Good morning.
What was your initial reaction, Mr. Griffith, when you saw this particular development? I mean, this is a big deal. I know there are many who might not understand what's happening in the background here. I know the SSA and the others who are housed in this Knowsley building. That's literally, to put it in layman's term, that's the intelligence arm, really. That's like the FBI, or I guess the CIA, as it were, of Trinidad and Tobago, kind of in that building?
Yes, certainly. That is the hub of intelligence for Trinidad and Tobago's national security apparatus. That's the engine room.
Yeah, police, everybody inside there.
Yeah, in Knowsley.
Yeah.
And some other locations. But what is important here, there are three different persons who have the authority for interception in Trinidad and Tobago. The Chief of Defense Staff, who recently got an extension because the politicians welcomed him, the Commissioner of Police, and also the Director of the SSA. Now, the SSA is where it is that the equipment and everything lies that allows them to do that interception. And you have to be very, very transparent to ensure that it is not abused by politicians. This shakeup that we are speaking about, there's nothing to be concerned about because this is the norm. Governments have it is the right of the government to select whoever they want or choose to be the director of the SSA, similar to the Chief of Defense Staff, similar to the Commissioner of Police. So you realize the politicians have the say to direct and select the three persons who have full authority to intercept your phone and to invade your rights of confidentiality. And that's how important these positions are, which means obviously we have serious flaws in our constitution that allows politicians to easily manipulate the system. So if they feel that Gary Griffith as a commissioner of police is not towing the line, I can remove him and bring somebody that didn't come in the top 10 for commissioner of police, hoping that that person will adhere to our back and call. Well, in this situation, as I said, it is the right of the government.
Okay, and I'm glad you actually identified that. So they went based on this recommendation by the National Security Council. But what about the audit, the raid? That in itself seems a little bit more strategic, a little more intentional, because I'm seeing here audit underway, and the place was on lockdown. Look, front page of the Guardian, police something in Jeep with mask on face going into the building.
Correct. So that's where I'm coming. So as I said, it is the norm. The National Security Council, which by the way has no constitutional authority, because this thing that we keep hearing about the National Security Council, they hold no part in our constitution. They are nothing more than a subcommittee of cabinet. So the National Security Council comprises politicians who will make political decisions to assist in the direction of the politicians in national security. So it is their right to select whoever they want as the director of the SSA. And we have seen it from pre-2010. There was somebody that was selected by the Prime Minister, and they abused the system with over 53 persons' phones being intercepted with no cause. There was no reason to do so other than that, and that involved the telephone of several present PNM ministers, myself, Kamala Prasad-Bissessa, and others. The law was then changed to have it that one of these three persons will have the authority. That's where we had the Rishmi Ramnarayan situation. And then there was a senior police officer that replaced Rishmi Ramnarayan. And then under the PNM administration, there have been three Defense Force personnel who have been directors of the SSA. All three persons, I can say that I know them well, and they are above board. So it is not to say that I'm saying that this government is handpicking somebody now to manipulate the process. The concern lies in that how this was done. So it is not by them, it is their right to change whoever they want, but how it was done. The three locations in the SSA have now been controlled under lockdown by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. That is madness. The SSA is an independent body covered under the Constitution through an act of Parliament. So the police service can't just go in the SSA, barge themselves in unless there's a warrant, and lock down the place, and civilians can't go in, civilians can't go out. We have the local fusion center. That fusion center is where we have the 1,700 cameras monitoring the country. That has virtually been shut down as well. So the eyes of Trinidad and Tobago's national security apparatus has been shut down. That is a serious threat to our national security. And then, as I said, to get the police now to come in and take over the SSA, you will see police officers outside the compound of the SSA at this time. That is a cause for serious concern, because you have in one arm of our national security taking control virtually of administration, operation, and logistics of another arm of national security that is instrumental to ascertain whose phones can easily be intercepted. And that is the cause for concern.
What do you think is the end game before we transition into the political discussion? I mean, this has been done for what, really? What's your third eye, your intuition is saying this morning concerning this entire development?
Well, again, but for the comments of an audit being done and so forth, this is a copycat virtually of what happened with myself as Commissioner of Police. You want to remove someone, fine, move the person. Go ahead, bring it in Parliament, appoint who you want. But then after you came with all sort of different hullabaloo about firearms and so forth, and after 3 years, not one arrest, not one person has been arrested for any such thing. So it seems that this is yet another witch hunt, a fishing expedition to justify changing someone. If you wanted to change the person, change them. But to speak of, and it's the same thing, remember audit. This government loves the audit. So you hire the Stanley Jokey John, you hire persons who may be closely affiliated with you, let them draft up something, and then come and put something to probably demonize the reputation of the individual. I know Major Roger Best. I joined the army with him at the same time. And probably that might be the reason, because the same thing happened with Wendell Lucas, where he topped the exams, the merit list for Commissioner of Police. Another individual wrote a fake report littered with inaccurate information, and the government immediately pulled the plug on that individual with the possible perception that I was affiliated with him. Is it the same thing with Roger Best? So is it that this government is on one that anybody who might be closely affiliated with Gary Griffith we have to remove? All of this thing about an audit and bringing the police and locking down the place, nobody could go in, nobody could go out. That is, as I said, is a serious cause for concern. The government will have questions to answer, because this is not how it's done. You would have recalled about how when Rishmi was removed, Rishmi Ramnarine, when Colonel George Robinson was changed for Major Roger Best. It's an easy transition. There's no cause for all of this. So this year is a matter of serious national security concern, especially the fact that the fusion center that is supposed to be monitoring our national security apparatus has been shut down in the meantime. And as I said, if it is we have someone who has political involvement and can easily be politically manipulated, they can now abuse the systems of the SSA. I know this for myself. Whilst Major Roger Best was on leave, a document was sent from the police service to the deputy director stating, under intelligence, we would like to intercept the phones of Gary Griffith, Nicole Dyer Griffith, and so forth. That is how easy it is. Your constitutional rights for that of privacy, which you are entitled to, unless there's a clear and present danger and justifiable evidence to ascertain that we have a right to intercept your phone and your privacy. If you don't do that, you can just use the word intelligence. And using the word intelligence totally deprives you of your rights to privacy and security. That is how dangerous our laws are at this time. It is very flawed, and if someone can easily be appointed in a position to take control, which is right now, because Brigadier Philip Spencer, again, I know him very well, second to none. I have the world of confidence in him. Maybe by me saying this, they might remove him now, by me saying this. But in the meantime, the present situation allows that it can be easily manipulated by, say, a police officer who is closely affiliated to the government and can now have full access to intercept all of your messages, because you may not be seen as someone who is closely affiliated to the government.
Interesting development there. Thanks for sharing. I want to take it further afield now into the political realm. Now, I was looking on when the opposition had their crime symposium, that big meeting at La Jolla. And even that particular meeting, I recognized that something was amiss, because the opposition leader, Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, had a particular perspective on a state of emergency. And of course, I know you're an independent thinker. You went up and you had a different perspective. And I know if people are under a particular umbrella, it should be a unified voice. Of course, a couple of weeks after that, we saw that, well, the development in the public domain, of course, your response to a statement that was made by the opposition leader. And from then to now, well, we're not too sure exactly where you stand or what's going on. I'm seeing a latest development with Philip Alexander in the mix. I know yourself and Mr. Alexander, it's like oil and water. So I really can't see what's going to happen as it pertains to this accommodation that you spoke so highly of during the local. Mr. Warner is offering himself as a man to bring the healing. Where are you with all that's happening? There's so many moving parts at this point in time, Mr. Griffith.
Sure. Well, I welcome, in fact, I mean, Jack Warner, I've known him for years. He actually brought me into politics. And it's interesting that part of his experience and qualification involves that of being a marriage counselor. So I actually met with him a couple of days ago. So let me clarify. Yes, during that anti-crime talk, there was that situation with the state of emergency. And this is good. This is good for a future government. It allows and shows to the country that the mistakes from 2010 to 2015 will not happen again. Because the value of a coalition government is one to ensure that if one person makes a mistake, which happens with this government, we have a prime minister who in March 2021 told his cabinet, if I can get 10 Gary Griffiths, I can transform the country. And they all banged the table. Few months later, because he fell out with me, he said, I hate that man, he's the worst thing, and everybody banged the table. That is where you call sheeple, not people in cabinet. So the important thing about coalition government is making sure that you have political leaders that can stand firm and say, hey, you're going the wrong direction. So what happened in the anti-crime talks is that there was a political scientist, and she made a comment as Dr. Rampersad, and she said, anytime I hear a gunshot outside, I say, let's call a state of emergency. And this was the same person that CNC3 decided to ask for their view pertaining to this situation with the NT and the UNC, and she attacked the NT. If West Indies win a test match, Dr. Rampersad will say it's because of the UNC, and which is unfortunate. We have political scientists that every single comment they make is to support one political party, but they consider themselves independent. Having said that, when she made the comment about a state of emergency, the opposition leader jumped and said, yes, I agree. And had there not been a political leader in an alliance that will be a silent partner, we would have probably gone ahead with it and formed a state of emergency and called a state of emergency. I understand that a state of emergency is not a crime-fighting tool. You don't call a state of emergency because of increase in crime. So that is where I will come in to ensure that the mistakes that took place in 2010 to 2015, whether it be Rishmi, whether it is that we have to fight crime on land and not at sea, that we'll call a state of emergency anytime you hear a gunshot because a political scientist said so. That is what the country needs.
And that is Mr. Griffith, but in retrospect, do you think this should be something discussed behind closed doors as opposed to in the public domain with having a clear disagreement with someone who is the leader of this said alliance, this said accommodation?
Yeah, but you see, if it is that you make a statement to say, yes, let's call a state of emergency anytime you have a gunshot in the air, and I agree blindly, the country will realize we are going no different to what happened in 2010 to 2015. Therein lies the problem.
Okay.
The National Transformation Alliance, previously known as the Congress of the People, previously known as the NAR, previously known as the ONR, those individuals, they are a very sensitive lot. They are not. They are persons who are independent thinkers, whereas the PNM and the UNC are two great political parties that have a powerful base. This 150,000 odd could never win an election, but they're the catalyst towards deciding the results of an election. So anyone who tries to undermine the importance of this third constituency, I ask them to just refer to 2001, when Ramesh Maharaj had a political party, and an individual, one of his candidates, got 180 votes, a mere 180. And that caused the difference for PNM to win that seat in Turapuna, turned it to 1818, and Patrick Manning became prime minister. So a third political party getting 180 votes was the difference. So anybody who gives the perception, Jolene John is the only citizen in Trinidad and Tobago that actually believes that the UNC can win alone. And that's what started the problem.
Does Jolene John really have all that clout? I know you mentioned last week, I saw in the news cycle, you said you think she is getting in the head of the opposition leader. Does Jolene really have that kind of play?
Well, in the initial meetings we had, Jolene said, we don't need you, we don't need anyone. We can win alone. Now,
she said that to you? Those were her words in writing, or she verbalized that to you?
Straight to me in front of Kamala Prasad, said, sir. And me in my usual diplomatic way, I said, well, if you don't appreciate what I bring to the table, I'm not going to dine with you. I picked up myself and I walked. And Kamala Prasad, sir, thankfully, having years of political experience, understood that Jolene John didn't have a clue about understanding the politics. We continued to negotiate, and you saw the results. The local government election was overwhelming success, 60,000 more votes than the PNM, and that was a 30% voter turnout. So in a 60% voter turnout, which is a general election, you will get about 120,000 difference, which is exactly what happened in 2010. So nothing has changed. The third constituency is there. However, they want to ensure that there's not going to be a repeat of the virtue or the perception of disrespect. So, I mean, so as much as you say that it should not have been dealt with in public, I think it is good. It shows transparency because the opposition, the leader of the UNC made a comment and said, let's call a state of emergency. I said, hold up, I don't think that is what is required. That is not a cause for conflict or concern. What can cause a cause for concern is a person's go on a platform, try to speak about third political parties who appointed you as political leader. Maybe Kamala Prasad didn't understand that is how the UNC was also formed, because Club 88 was formed by Bazio Pandey being appointed by certain persons, and the UNC ran with him being the interim political leader, I think, for a couple of years. That is how all political parties are formed. But again, which is interesting, though, that they stated that you need to assess political parties before you come under the umbrella of the UNC. So one person made a statement, he returned from politics for the fourth time, and less than 24 hours later, Rudy Munilal threw the red carpet, hugged him up and cracked the champagne. So it seems that the assessment process for eligibility to be a partner of the UNC can take place in less than 24 hours.
But I'm just suggesting here too that obviously your response to all the shenanigans also could have been done privately. Obviously you coming out and you know, I mean, we know that you're outspoken, you speak your mind. And that in itself is what got this particular ball rolling. Now, Mr. Warner is coming in to say he wants to broker some kind of meeting. And then I'm seeing Mr. Alexander now is in the mix. And I'm trying to figure out how all that's happening, all these moving parts, how that's going to settle. Because I can't honestly, at this point in time, see yourself and Mr. Alexander working shoulder to shoulder in the trenches.
Well, you know, but the interesting thing with Mr. Alexander, I mean, what is important, it's interesting that the media has so much interest in it. He resigned from politics and returned about 4 occasions. He spent all of his time in the local government election campaign. You're a political leader of a party that is not in government or opposition, and you spend all of your time attacking another political party's leader who is not in government or opposition. So it's obvious, you know, he had an agenda. The same way that all he spent for 3 weeks before my name went in Parliament was to attack me and demand that I not be appointed as Commissioner of Police. So you understand the nature of the individual. It is his right if he feels being a politician is to spend all their time attacking Gary Griffith, so be it. His decision, he's not a stupid individual. He would not have returned for the 4th time and say that he's going to support the UNC, because just about 2 months ago he said his one objective in life was to ensure the UNC and the NTA never get in government. So he would not have thrown his support behind the UNC unless there was some dialogue with someone within the UNC. And as I said, lo and behold, Rudy Munilal jumps up, cracks the champagne and welcomes him, to the point that he welcomes the individual and didn't even know the name of the political party that Philip Alexander leads, because he called them the People's Progressive Party. So you're so excited to bring someone after your political leader says we must assess persons first, but you welcome them. So Rudy Munilal has questions to answer, because it seems that he is so in love with Philip Alexander, he welcomed him with open arms, showing the difference of the PNM. Had Philip Alexander said that about the PNM, I'm sure the PNM would not have been so excited and happy. It gives the impression that anyone, whether Bin Laden comes back to life, that the UNC will welcome anybody who says they support the UNC. Yeah. That is not how I intend to operate. As I said, that 120, 130, whatever, 1,000 persons want to understand that we are here to try to ensure good governance. We're not into the bacchanal of persons going on a platform asking people what you bring to the table, who are you, how you come here, how many supporters you have. And then after, persons who have spent all their time attacking you just say, well, I'm going to support you now, and then Rudy Munilal jumps up. The NTA, we don't have time for all of this bacchanal and all of that.
Well, in that regard,
job is good governance.
In that regard, of course, as you speak of good governance and moving away from the bacchanal, what's the way forward? What is the next step? Is it that you're going to do this alone? You know, you're in for the long haul? Is it that Mr. Warner could indeed broker this conversation?
Well, I think what is required is just communication. Kamala Prasad Visesas refused to communicate with me after about four weeks. I mean, having verbal communication. Communication is obviously the key. So if it is, you make a decision to say, let us call a state of emergency. You don't make a public statement unless you liaise with probably persons who may have better knowledge and understanding it. Not hearing a political scientist who is on a UNC platform, who CNC3 then decides to interview, to ask a view about it, you know, and obviously you're getting biased results. So our job is to, my intention is to make sure that I properly represent that 3rd constituency. They are not going to be used, but we fully understand the importance of an alliance. Anytime there's an alliance between the 3rd constituency and the UNC, the PNM is annihilated. The UNC has never and could never win an election on its own. And this is not in any way to discredit the importance and the power of the UNC. But because of how our constitution is structured, the UNC may very well get more votes than the PNM. But because the majority of their voters are in central and southern Trinidad and Tobago, they will not get more than 19 votes. That east-west corridor is a very sensitive area. And again, this is why, so when Kamala Persad-Bissessar said, what do you bring to the table? Never in the history of Trinidad and Tobago have they ever seen a political leader walk the length and breadth of Trinidad as I did as a political leader. What I did, no political leader did even 10%. I worked every single aspect of Trinidad from the hills in Diego Martin, Caranage, Cocorit, Port of Spain, Laventille, Sealots, Beetham, Tunapuna, Arima, all the way along the corridor. No political leader has done that. We were asked by the UNC to go and walk in San Fernando and San Grande to assist their candidates to win their seats and to make sure the PNM would not take Grande and to assist the UNC. So the NTF, we went and the 31 hardest seats that the PNM held, where they would have won by over 1,500 to 3,000 votes against the UNC in a two-horse race. By the NT and the UNC voters joining, we took almost all of those 31 seats and cut it from 1,500 to a couple hundred. We cut major inroads. So the NTA, we have proven our worth. What we intend to do is for the next few months is to focus on showing to the country we have the solutions, we have the plans, we have the people, we have the political will. Similar to that border protection unit. This is something that I drafted as the Commissioner of Police 3 years ago, and you would have seen it. We set it out, 27 pages, showing how I could have done this within a few months. The GSC comes 3 years after and makes a recommendation. And it shows the incompetence of this government. So what the NTA is showing to the country, the same way that we can transform national security, we can transform every aspect in the public service to ensure good governance. That is our focus over the next few months. If other political parties want to bring in other people and all they're going to do is to attack Gary Griffith and the NTA, you're not going to form a strategic alliance. That type of bacchanal politics, we want no part of. Yeah. So if you see that persons who have a new alliance with the UNC are going to spend all their time attacking Gary Griffith, then that means you would have understood the agenda. You would have understood why Rudy Munilal welcomes the PEP with open arms, even though his leader said there must be assessment. If it is you are going to have persons in your alliance that will be attacking the NTA every day, then we will have to understand that the friends of my enemy would be my enemy.
Mr. Griffith, I want to thank you, as always, for your time, for your clarity, and for keeping us in the loop as to what's happening via the NTA and, of course, what's going on in this ever-shifting political landscape that is the politics of Trinidad and Tobago. Have a safe one.
I do assure you that the NTA would be more reliable than Odano as what he did yesterday for Manchester United. The man is the worst goalkeeper in the world. Yes. I could get down faster than that man. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I was really hoping you were able to get some points from City yesterday, but you know, you never know. Still some games ahead. But we'll talk that next time. Mr. Griffith, as always, thanks for the time. We'll touch base soon.